Welcome to Education and More's Learn Python 3 Programming at a Snail's Pace. My name is Marcus Gardner and I'm the instructor for this course. In today's video, we're just going to do a little bit of homework help for your last lesson in range, string, for, and length. Okay? It's an important lesson because we're reading from files, and you really need to know how to be able to go through the file, maybe look for things that you're looking for, or rather find things you're looking for. And right now, we need to be able to get everything we need from that line before we go to the next one, because we can't save it. Well, at least we haven't learned how. Now, later on, we're going to learn things about arrays. They call it something else. You'll learn about that later. But we're actually going to learn how to do that very, very soon. But for right now, it's important that you get what you need before you go to the next line. So let's go ahead and talk about that. All right. So let's see here. One of the things I asked you to do is to get a count of some vowels. Okay. So how do you do that? All right. So let's go here. I've got lesson 14 already created. So first thing I'm going to do is, have a file handler, and I am going to open grocery.txt. Okay. Of course, the other way to do it is to ask the person for the name of the file, okay, and make sure you catch the error, etc. Okay. So I'm not going to do all the vowels. I'm just going to do one of them. Okay, so let's say I want to count how many E's there are. So I'm going to create an E counter. Okay. E counter. Start it out equals 0. All right. And what I'm going to do is go through each line in the file. But let's say I don't want the header line. Okay, because I think that we had our, well, let's just verify here. File open, grocery, list of items. Let's say I don't want any of the E's from list of items. Okay, so I'm going to do a line counter. Okay, it's always important that you know what the file looks like before you try to do anything. Okay, maybe I have a bunch of junk on quite a few lines I don't want. If I don't know what it looks like, my counts are going to be off. Okay, so I'm going to say line counter is equal to 0, and then I'm going to say I'm going to increase that count after I get each line. But before I increase it, I want to check if my line counter is greater than 0. Then I want to count my E's. Okay. All right. So what do I do? I did something like this for line in file handler. Again, I could put anything I want here. You can put A, B, C if you want to. But again, I don't like that. I like naming things so that you understand what it is. Okay? Okay. Last time I think I put file handler written out. That's fine. Okay? FH to me means file handler. But if you like, you can put file _ handler or anything you want. Okay? It's just you want to make it so that people understand what your variables are. Okay. Now, most of the time, your code reviewers are going to be people who know how to code. So they're going to say, first off, they're going to say, what is FH? They're going to look up here to say, open all file handler. Okay. And they're going to say, good choice of variables. It's not the best. Of course, the best would be file handler, because then I would know exactly when I see file handler anywhere, I know what it is. Okay, but it's acceptable. All right, for line and file handler, what I'm going to do now is if line counter is greater than 0, the spacing doesn't matter, it just bothers me. Then I'm going to see if there is an E in it. Now, how do I do that? Well, there's a couple ways to do that. One, I can do a, how about this? For letter in range, length of line. So what is this? Now remember, range goes from 0 to whatever I wanted minus 1, right? Okay, so this is the length of the line. So if the line is, say, 20, okay, it's going to go 0 to 19, which is great because remember, the 20th character is actually the 19th position. I mean, when I do the line bracket 19, okay? Now, this is one way to do it. We're going to learn a different way in just a few minutes, but let's go and do this. Then I can say, if line bracket letter is equal to E, or. Now, why am I doing an or here? Okay. Well, do you remember what the first item in that list was? Eggs. And that eggs was a biggie. You see, Python cares whether it's a little e or a big E when it talks about characters, okay? It knows the difference. People, you know, when you say, oh, show me an E, they don't care. They're going to show you any E whatsoever. Okay, Python won't. If you just say this part right here, it's going to say, okay, this one is not an E because it's not super smart. Okay, he doesn't know what an E is. You have to tell it. Well, an E is this, and it's also this. Okay, then I get my line counter to increase some. Line counter plus 1. Of course, some of you algebra students out there be going, hey, you can't do this. X can't equal to X plus 1. Okay, but this is the way we do it with programming. Yeah, it's a little confusing for us mathematicians. But anyway, we just say X, and then we say take itself, and then add 1, and then assign it back to X. All right. And let's see. Is that everything? Well, let's check it. Here. And now we're going to say print the number of E's was E counter. Now let's see if we made any mistakes. Okay. All right. Right click, CMD, and then Python. I'm thinking, yes, I made a mistake. Okay. I said line counter. I wanted E counter. But that reminds me of the mistake I made. I need to increase the line counter. Line counter equals line counter plus 1. Okay. Once I am done with the line, okay, then I'm going to increase it. Here, if it's 0, I'm going to increase it and then read the next line. All right, E counter. There we go. That should be it. Let's see. Lesson 14.py. The number of E's was 5. Let's take a look. Okay, we're not going to count this one. So, eggs, 1. Cheese, 1, 2, 3. So that makes 4. Steaks makes 5. Okay? So, that's how you do it. All right. Now, that is one way to do it. Now let's try another way. Let's copy all of this. File, new, 14B. File, save as, 14B. Lesson 14B. P. There we go. Python. Okay. Now I'm going to everything back, except I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do something else. Okay. Now, back up to here. I did for line and file handler. Now I called it a line. That's what it is. But what else can you say about it? It's a thing. For a thing in this file handler. That thing here is called a line. Well, let's do it again. For thing in the line. Well, that thing would be a letter. So let's change this to line. Okay. I didn't really want to erase all that. Let's put it back. Okay. Now, instead of the counter here, I'm just going to say if letter is equal to or letter is equal to. Okay? So again, let's go back over this. Yes, a file handler has lines, but let's just think of it as a thing. Okay? For the thing in file handler. In this case, the thing was a line. Now we're doing it again. For thing in the line. Well, that thing is characters or letters, as I would put it here. Okay? So, for each letter, for each line, this one's going to process a whole line, and then another line, and then there's another line. This one is going to process a character, and then another character, and then another character. Okay? And let's see if it works. All right. Now, we're going to do 14b.py, and we get the same answer. Okay? So, this is just another way to do it. So, make sure you understand both ways. All right. So, you could have, take the range and then do the line, bracket the letter. Okay? Or this one's a little better, in my opinion. Okay? This one's just saying for letter in the line, and then if the letter is equal to this or that, then increase. Again, both ways are totally acceptable. Okay? This one requires a little bit less work. This one, you got to get the length of the line, and then do the range, and then you're using the string and then finding the position. So this one's a little bit less extra overhead. So it's actually a little faster. So I consider it better. But again, for small programs, it doesn't make a difference. Now, when would it make a difference? Let's say you're working for Amazon. Okay? And you have millions of customers coming to your website, and they're wanting to do some processing, and it requires you to look at certain positions of certain lines and data. Do you think your boss will prefer one or the other, or will it matter to him? Okay. Now, many years ago, when computers were much slower, then yes, it would make a huge difference. Okay? This one would run a whole lot faster. Now, nowadays, it's going to be very, very small. But still, let's take a look at mathematically. So, here I have a calculator. Now, I don't know, well, we can actually find out, but we'll learn about that later. So for right now, let's just throw out a number, okay? Let's say it is that many seconds faster, okay? And let's say you have 10 million customers. 10 million. Well, that's 10,000. That's 10 million. So 100 seconds saved. Okay. So that's not a lot of time. So again, we don't know how much faster it was right now. Later on, I'll show you how to time it. And then we can go back to this discussion and see how much faster it was. But when you're talking about a huge number of people, this could be a big difference. Okay? Remember, I said it was this much faster. Maybe it was much less. Maybe it's, much more faster. So let's say it was this much faster. Well, if I multiply that by 10 million, we get 10,000 seconds, which is 166 minutes, which is 2.7 or 2.8 hours. Well, that's a big difference. All right. So when you write these programs, it's always important to ask your boss if it's going to make a big difference, whether your program is optimized or not. Okay? Now, most of the time, you are going to get hired by either a startup or, a small company. Maybe you could get, hired by a big company. It's going to make a big difference. So make sure you understand what the goals are of your company, what the goals are of your program when you start writing programs. Do you need to worry about every little thing you do? Do you really need to optimize it? Okay? Or do they care about how fast you can get done and go on to the next program? Because many times that's the type of company you're going to be working for. Okay? Hey, we're paying you $70,000, $80,000 a year. We want you to write 5 programs a day. Okay? If you're in that type of environment, most of the time, you are not going to be writing programs that really need to worry about optimization. Okay? So you're going to be trying to think of the fastest way that you know how to solve a problem and get it done. But make sure it's correct. So always do your testing. Okay? And, all right. Now, what if they wanted to know, what is the 23rd character in line number 3? Well, I'm not going to write the code right now. This is something we're going to think about. So, line number 3. Well, that would actually be, 0, 1, 2. That would be, what we call the third line. We've got a small problem. We can't just say, line bracket 22. Because what if the line is only 10 characters long? Well, then you say, you could get an error. So we can do a try statement. Well, we just don't want to try every single time. If we notice a possibility of an error, then we want to try and see if we can figure out a way to prevent the error without using try. Now, sometimes it's a little hard. With a file name, okay, it's easier to just go ahead and try it and get an error. But if I want the 23rd character, there's another way. You've already just learned it. LEN. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the length. Okay? If the length of the third line is, 10, then I'm not even going to try to find a 23rd character. Okay. So before you find the exposition of a line, always take a look at the length of the line. Okay? If the length of the line is less than the position you want, then say, sorry. Okay? The line is not that long. Okay. All right. I think let me go ahead and take a quick look at some of the homework I gave you. And let's see if I've covered everything that we need. Okay, this one you can do. How many of each vowel? Okay, I just did you one of those. Until 0. Okay, you should be able to handle that. That's fine. Tell them where the string is. Okay, that's fine. Okay, this is, and then the character number. Okay, I just gave you the hint on this one. Okay, and this one, it's not a problem. Okay, all right, so you are good to go. I don't have any extra homework, so you should be able to finish that homework now. Okay, and then go on to the next video. Thank you very much, and you have a nice day. Bye-bye.